Guys, it's been a whole minute, and maybe like I don't know how many minutes are in a year, but it's been a lot of minutes since we've been on Life on the Edge. As you can see, I've lost a lot of hair since the last time we've been on here, and I have a special guest. So my special guest is my sister. We don't look a lot alike in my personal opinion, but we definitely sound alike. Say what's up.
What's up? What's up?
And, we felt like it was a good time for me to come back to Life on the Edge during Mental Health Month to spend some time talking to you about mental health. So first of all, like I said, Raven's my sister. She's my little sister. I'm 2.5 years older than her. Raven lives in Colorado. I live in Arizona, which is why we're doing this on Zoom. And, why not? Life in quarantine is all about Zoom meetings. But both Raven and I live, I'm not going to say suffer because we definitely live with two mental illnesses. I would say that one is probably stronger than the other, but it's not often that people talk openly about what it feels like to live with and have a mental illness. So Raven and I are coming at you with some information about anxiety and cyclothymia. So I've talked about anxiety a lot before. I think anxiety is kind of one of those common mental health issues that people talk about, but cyclothymia is actually really rare. For those of you who have no idea what cyclothymia is, it is not as extreme as being bipolar, but it causes the same reactions in your body. So you have highs and lows. And the way that Raven described it was it's like your heart just goes like this. And so your highs and lows, like you're not going to be high for a long amount of time, and you might not be low for a long amount of time, but they can happen very rapidly. So what Raven and I have done over the last couple of days is we've just kind of put together some questions about what it's like. She writes 5 questions. What it's like to kind of live in this bubble of having a mental health disorder. And I think, and Raven, you can agree or disagree with me, but I think there's a negative stigma when we talk about mental health or mental health disorders because the word disorder means that something's wrong. What are your thoughts?
Either not necessarily disorder or something wrong, but when they label it like as mental illness, okay, yes, it's an illness. It's something that people struggle with. It's something that people are put on medication for, but I don't necessarily think that it's a disorder into where like you can let it affect you long term. Like it's something that one you'll live with throughout your life, but it doesn't have to be one of those disorders or illnesses. Like if you were to have died from COVID, that is going to completely define your whole life.
So I think like one of the things that's important is like, obviously I teach English, and so to me word choice is really important. So, yes, it is a mental illness. Yes, it is a mental disorder and things like that. But, calling it like it is. You have cyclothymia, I have anxiety. It's almost, those have less negative connotation than saying, I live with a mental health disorder. And that's what Raven and I are here to do, is to show that like we're regular people who, live every day. So I'm going to let Raven tell you a little bit about herself since, y'all are my subscribers, a little bit about me. Who are you?
Who am I? My name's Raven Roberts. I'm quite a fabulous individual. If anybody hasn't met me, I'm a ball of joy, depending on the day. But I figured out that I had cyclothymia in 2008 when I was basically like, no, life's not for me. It'd be much better if I just like check myself So in the part of, I'm going to check myself out, a thought that wasn't just a one-time thought, it was a constant thought from my senior year of high school through the end of my freshman year of college. And so, I called you up, I called mom up, and I checked myself into the hospital. They took the shoelaces out of my shoes. Anybody who knows me knows that I enjoy my shoes, so please don't touch them. But I couldn't put the shoelaces back until they let me out. So, yeah, I went, and for my own safety, to know that my family knew that I was okay in Greeley, I went to the hospital, checked myself in for a mental health evaluation. Then I was in a mental institution for 24 hours, and everything is not what they say. There's no really straight jackets. It's not all crazy people. They do not let you call who you want to call. There are certain things they take away from you, and that's, so if you don't know your phone number, it's unfortunate. But put me on some meds, and I didn't like them. So it was like the meds either make me, so with cyclothymia, like Davlin said, I either like up or down. There's no extreme high, there's no extreme low. If it's not handled in the way that it should be handled, there are moments where it can linger longer than it should be. But I can, like, for the most part, you can be happy one minute, literally sad the next. No explanation, no reason why. I can say I'm good, like I'm really good. Just give me, I'm cool. But there's other things going on. So as the years have gone on, and since I've really not been on meds since I had cane, I've been able to manage it significantly better. While there are highs and lows, and there are still the moments where things happen, for the most part, everything is handled mentally. So, but it is something that happens, and that you can't ignore it no matter what happens. Biggest thing with cyclothymia and bipolar is that it's constant mood swinging. For me to deny the fact that I have mood swings would be a straight lie. So it's just a mood disorder.
So let's just go ahead and jump into these questions. I think, a really good first question. Obviously, as your sister, I know a lot about your life, and I think that you're pretty open, for the most part, with family about living with cyclothymia. But like, to other people, friends, co-workers, your fiance, is that something that you're open about? And like, why do you think you're open about it or not open about
it? It depends on the environment. There are environments where, like with Josh, who don't know me, that is my fiance, bam, bam. But that was something that I was very open with him about, because I'm very aware of who I am. So if I know that at some point in life, if we were going to do this and I had a moment, you needed to know what was happening. You need to know how I would address it, what caused it. It's not something that's happened suddenly. In a work environment, no, 100%. Whoever sees this will probably be the first to know if I haven't told them, which is fine, but it's not something like, I have a mental illness and I can't do this. It's like, I'm cool. If you find out about it, you find out about it. If I can empower you in some way to move on from yours, then that's amazing. But if I can't, then you don't need to know. I mean, if you ask, I'll tell you. If you don't ask, I won't tell, because it's not who I am. So, for the most part, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. If you want to know more, you can ask.
All good things.
Yeah. So since you struggle with anxiety more often, I guess, than I do, because anxiety isn't a thing that I necessarily deal with. My first question was, when did you first come to terms that you struggled with anxiety?
I think it was like a slow burn. It was like an incense. Like, eventually it just kind of got there. Growing up knowing that, having a mental illness is something that's probably in your family. I think that it started off as, and it was diagnosed as depression. And then I quickly realized, because I have family members, as you know, that are depressed. I quickly realized it wasn't depression, because I wasn't sad. There was nothing that made me sad. There were things just I couldn't let go, and that would become debilitating, I would say. And I think that, I started to recognize that shortly after we moved to Arizona, because I wholeheartedly thought I would be depressed when I moved to Arizona, but like I do with most things, I took that shit by the horns. Let's do this. We gotta, take care of it. But if something went wrong, or I couldn't fix something, it would get me to the point where I couldn't sleep, where my heart would race, where I'd feel like I couldn't breathe. And all of those things to me weren't depression. They were much bigger than that. And I think just even recognizing that there was something wrong mentally, that clearly happened, after I was told I couldn't have kids, because that was the first thing that was out of my control. I think anxiety is a lot of control. And when I don't have control, that's when I find myself in anxious situations. And then even beyond that, because I do take medicine for my anxiety every day, it's easier to kind of come out of that, when I'm out of control. But if I didn't have the medicine, I think that I don't know, I would just be crippled. The brain is a powerful thing. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about having a mental illness?
That you're not okay. That you should just check yourself into a hospital. Sorry, it just comes naturally sometimes. I do accents to myself. Excuse me. Okay. But I think, it's oh, you have a mental illness? Stamp. You got an issue. You can't function in life. It just makes, if it said on a job application or any application that you had to do within life that you had a mental illness, that you would probably need some kind of evaluation, or maybe not, because they don't talk about it, and so it'll probably never go on an application. But they just think you can't function properly in society. You can't think for yourself. You need help. I mean, I'm all about the help, because therapy is my jam. But there are just so many other things that, yes, okay, it's a label. Yes, you have a mental illness. Yes, you have a disorder. But in the bigger aspect of things, it's, okay, just like you got arthritis, you got to take medicine for your arthritis. It's the same thing. There's no difference. It's just that one can be debilitating. And then
yeah, I feel that.
I mean, depression, because cyclothymia, bipolar, mood disorder, all rolls in the same form of some kind of depression. I can't lie. Those all sit there. Just one is higher than the other. So it just, if you have a disorder, they think that you wouldn't be able to do anything. So if dabbling was labeled as a disorder with being a teacher, how often does that affect your work?
I think that because I am a teacher, I'm in a really special position. So, if that was one of the first questions in an interview, tell me about your education. Also, do you have a mental illness? I think that would be really problematic. First of all, you're going to send me into a panic attack at that point, because then I have to consider, do I tell you the truth, or do I lie to you? Because you don't understand how this works in my life. So are you going to, like you said, label me weird? But in having a job and being a teacher, I'm very open about having anxiety. I tell my kids that I have anxiety. I tell my coworkers that I have anxiety. And, you know, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I want to be a part of the solution. Like, there needs to not be this stigma. Second of all, I work with a vulnerable population. A lot of people who commit suicide are teenagers. And so to be able to have conversations with teenagers and say, you know, you're not alone. You're not a weirdo because of this. There's, you know, yes, there's something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you. Like, so I think that to be able to be a functioning adult who has anxiety, you know, it's a different part of teaching. It's teaching kids how you know, take life's challenges and roll with them, and, you know, are essentially better because of them. Like, don't get me wrong, if anxiety disappeared, I'd be solid. We'd be good with that. But, you know, it's a blessing in some ways because I am able to connect to kids that maybe I wouldn't have been able to connect to otherwise. You know, I've had a number of kids come in and just say, Edge, I can't do it. Like, today's not my day. I'm not feeling it, whatever. And I'm like, cool, you ain't feeling it. It's not your day. Like, what do you need from me? How can I be of assistance to you? And I think that oftentimes because of the misconception of mental illnesses and because of that, like, kind of mentality, we don't take the time to just give people a break. And unfortunately, I think that, like, society, you know, there's so much pressure in society that mental illness is probably more prevalent in the kids I teach than than my age group or your age group or really anybody, because either one, they're not willing to accept it, or two, like, they just didn't have anything to trigger that in them while they were growing up. And now we have social media, school pressure, work pressure, family pressure, you know, all of these pressures, and it messes with your mind. And so, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing in teaching, and very specifically in teaching, because I think it's helpful to my kids. I think that, you know, if I had a different profession, would I be as open about it? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. So, you know, we talked about how my little Kane Ray. You mentioned Kane Ray. You mentioned Josh. How does having cyclothymia, like, affect you as a mom and a fiance?
You know, it affects you in different ways. I'm fiance fresh right now, so I can't really say that it affects me in a lot of ways.
Define fiance fresh.
We're only 2 months in the game, almost 3.
Okay.
Yeah, we fiance fresh, and we're taking a planning wedding sabbatical.
Okay.
So planning a wedding. There you go. Planning a wedding and having cyclothymia makes you want to, you know, kick yourself in the kneecaps a few times. It's added stress, and then on top of the stress you're already trying to manage, aka my little man Kane. But Kane, I mean, he's not stressful. He's fun. So he wants to do a lot of stuff. He keeps you on your toes. He's busy, and I think being a mom and working through a mental disorder or mental illness, just trying to function daily and making sure that you are okay is one of those, like, okay, even if you have a bad day, you have to pull through for Kane. And then it's like, Kane's such a sweetheart that if I have a bad day and I'm just crying because I don't know, that's what happens, I'll just be crying. And he goes, I still love you, Mom. And so there are great things because he has my back and he's always there. And there are times where I'm like, I don't want to cry for a kid. I can't cry for a kid. But I'm not going anymore. I got it. The day alone is enough. But I think it has challenged me in new ways to be more successful in managing. Like, okay, you have owned it. You own that you're having a bad day. You own that this is what's happening. You own, like, you just need to cry for a hot 30 minutes, and then it'll be slight relief, and then you'll just tackle tomorrow. But you just wake up every day. Today's a good day to have a good day. I think
always a good day to have a good day.
Always. I think with Josh, because me and Josh are in a long distance relationship, we have been in a long distance relationship the entire just the moment we said hello, we've been in a long distance relationship, and it
Hello.
being upfront with him has helped. Sometimes I think that he worries a lot more. Like if I'm like, today was a bad day. He's like, are you okay? Are you gonna have a moment? I mean, I'd be lying if there weren't times where he was like, well, I said today was a bad day. He assumed it was like a really bad day, so I'm just gonna cry for a good 3 days, and then I'll pull myself out of it. But it challenges our relationship to communicate. I appreciate him in a million ways because he's always asking, like, I'm just checking on you. Are you okay? Are you okay? So it's nice to have those mental health checks just because I know what he's doing because he cares and he wants to make sure I don't go over deep end. But for the most part.
Welcome to karaoke with Dallin and Raven.
But I think it's challenging, and I have to keep myself in check, and I have to own it. And when I mess up or I'm having a bad day, and I'm like, nah, I'm sorry, I'm like fly off the handle. It's just one of those things where you gotta say, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to offload on you or put that on you. It's 100%. I have to be aware of my mood and my actions at all times. It's not fair to anyone. It's not fair to Kane, his mom. It wouldn't be. It's not fair to Josh as his fiance, as his girlfriend, as many others. So, other than that, it's not as hard as commercials make it seem.
Commercials.
I'm trying to tell you, they just have them women on the couch, and they're like, if you can't get off the bed.
But in all fairness,
this is true. Because there are times I don't want to get out of bed.
There are some people who
and this is true. I can't knock it.
They're in the beginning of their journey.
I fall back. Can't knock it because there are those moments. I was in that time.
Okay.
In that time. With having anxiety, what would you like people to know about going through it and working with it?
I think I don't know that there's anything that people need to know about having anxiety in specific. I think what people should know is that you need to be kind. Like you need to be kind, you need to be compassionate, you need to be forgiving. Ephesians 4:32 tattoo next week. But if you're kind, like you can you can ease somebody's anxiety. Like the biggest part of my anxiety is when I feel like, let's say somebody hurt me. So then my response to them may have been hurtful to them, but then I feel bad because I was hurtful to them. Like they was hurtful to me first. Do you think they care if they was hurtful to me? Probably not. But because I have anxiety and that's a piece of my anxiety, I'm going to go back and I'm going to cycle that bad boy as many times as I can. Like, what did I do to make them feel that way? Like, how is this my fault? And then how can I fix it? So if we are genuinely just purposefully kind to people and understanding that we have no idea what somebody's going through on a given day, that like you can, help eliminate stresses from other people. And then and being compassionate, like when you ask somebody how their day is, expect to get a response. Like, don't be like, hey, how was your day? And they're like, and you're like, that's great. And then you keep moving. Like, if you're going to ask somebody how their day is, like, listen to how their day is. And be willing to give feedback to that. Like, Tyler knows, like, don't ask me how my day is if you ain't ready to listen. Because I'm going to tell you about everything that happened in my day and how all of that went. And I think that that's a part of being compassionate, is really just opening your heart to other people. Mm-hmm. And it's very possible that you're going to say, how's your day? And somebody's going to say, it was fine. And then you keep moving. You have the opportunity to say, like, just fine. Girlfriend, what made it fine? Like, why wasn't it a good day? And, maybe they won't open up or whatever, but at least you were compassionate enough and caring enough to ask the next question. And I think too often we don't ask the next question because we don't care enough. And, like, we're not willing to get that deep into that conversation, which is it's a whole nother thing. But then, also be forgiving. Like, if I snap on you, it probably has nothing to do with you. Or if I ask you a million times the same thing, forgive me and just know that I'm working through something and I just need you to be there to let me work through it. You know, we are all individuals and we are all different, you know, we are all dealing with individual things, be it good, bad, or in between. And if we are kind, compassionate, and forgiving, like overall, like it's not whether you're dealing with anxiety or the person you're talking to is dealing with anxiety or somebody has a mental health issue or whatever. You're just being a human and you're being a good human. And being a good human is going to help other people be good humans and be living humans. Like, and I think that's important to remember. Let's see, Rem, what else I got for you, girl? You know, what do you think is the most important piece of advice to, you know, that people who have, you know, a form of bipolar disorder, you know, maybe they have cyclothymia. They've never heard of anybody else who has cyclothymia. Like, what's one piece of advice that you would give them that you think has gotten you to where you are today?
It's okay to not be okay.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. If Josh asks me if I have a bad day and I ain't going to tell him, he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm not okay. You just gotta say I'm not okay. Because at the end of the day, if nobody knows you are not okay, even the strong ones, they'll think, "Cool, they're okay." Because I bet nobody until they watch this video knew that Raven wanted to check herself out.
Not only that Raven wanted to check herself out.
Yeah, I may have tried. But maybe a couple times. Constant. The world would just have been.
It would have been lame.
It would have been lame because y'all wouldn't have got Kane, and Kane is a hoot.
Also, don't get a big head because that's also real possible right now. It's okay to not be okay. I think that's important.
Yeah. I think you gotta. People say you see people on social media saying you know feels bad. You always gotta check on the strong ones, and I mean even the strong ones. Like you could be as strong as you want. Your girl, if you're strong as you need to, strongest two people I know are on screen right now, and you just gotta say, not okay.
Not okay. And I think, you know, another piece of that is like, if somebody says they're not okay, you can ask that next question. Is there anything I can do for you? You know, they're going to give you a yes or a no. It's a yes or no. So first of all, don't ask, is there anything I can do for you if you ain't willing to do something for me? Yep. Second, if I say no, I said no. Mm-hmm. Like you don't need to dig, you don't need to prod. That's, you know, that's what it is. But if I say yes, like be there. It's easy.
I would say even if you say no and it's like, okay, I said no, stop crying, like I'm cool, just let me handle it. If you say, hey, I'm just checking in on you, I hope you are having a better day. Oh man, that could skyrocket today. That could be like,
or hey, or even say, you know, I know yesterday was a bad day, just know I'm here for you.
Yeah, like yeah, okay, they didn't want your help, but that doesn't mean you stopped reaching out.
Perfect.
You can give up on people like that.
Can't give up.
Because I think, like, you just can't do that. A mom, a wife, a friend on a bad day. What are the things that help you?
I take real good medicine. Let's go ahead and start there. And I think a lot of people, like you've learned different ways to handle your cyclothymia without medicine. I don't go a day without my medicine. But I think like the things that help me the most are communication. So letting people know, like, I have anxiety. This is how anxiety affects my life. I think specifically, not so much maybe with my husband, but like with you guys, with my family, it's like, and being the only person who lives away from the family, like is being able to say, hey, just so you know, if you do things like this or you say things like this, they're going to send me, you know, into a cycle. And so not that I want you to watch what you say, but I want you to be careful. Like if it's not as serious as it is, let's leave it in a non-serious position. But if it is serious, like just know that I'm going to care a lot more than other people are going to care. And I'm going to annoyingly care. So you got to be ready for that. But I would say just communicating in general is, you know, what makes that easy. And, you know, Riley also suffers from a lot of these same things. And so I think that, it's just like in teaching, like being able to talk to her and say, hey, I have anxiety too. I don't know if this helps you, but this helps me. And if you need to take a break, you need to tell us that you need to take a break because we can't read minds. And your anxiety isn't the same as my anxiety, isn't the same as her anxiety, but, you're not in this alone. But I think if Riley didn't know that I had anxiety, she would feel alone. If my friends didn't know that I have anxiety, some of the shit I do might be real questionable. And, just having a husband and a family and all of those things, just being able to say, hey, this is where I'm
at. Even when I say okay, you say, not to say okay, if I tell you this, I don't want you guys to stop doing this or watch what you say. When you say to me, just know this is how I'm going to perceive it. It's just like when people talk to me or dad goes, well, I don't know if I can say one thing, it's going to fly you off the handle. And it's like, well, how did you walk up to that conversation prior to? It's not that it flew me off the handle. It's the words and how it
delivery,
how it inserted in my mind and how it happened. But I think that's, you don't have to sugarcoat it for people. You don't have to. And people who don't know that something's going on, of course, you're not going to sugarcoat it. You're not going to watch what you say. You're not going to be sensitive to those around you. But if you know that this is things that happen, people have told you this, or they delivered that in a way to hey, I'm not saying you have to watch what you say. This is what I'm working through. They should be able to respect that in a way of, okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't meaning to trigger that in you. I didn't know. If there's any way I can help, let me know.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think that this is my last question, but I think it's a kind of hard question. How do you think your life would be different if you didn't have cyclothymia?
Yeah, I'd be lame. I think there are a lot of things there'd be no driving Raven. I don't think that I'd be people say I have a crazy amount of energy, and I'm I don't know what y'all are talking about because this is just, I'm here. Meds, I don't dabble dry. I take absolutely no meds to attack and or treat and or aid in this whatsoever. Some sunshine, good laughter, and communication is pretty much how I handle it. But I necessarily don't think, I think I would be living a lie. I wouldn't be Raven. I wouldn't be who I was. And if I had it and I never addressed it, but I never was all right, well, that was kind of drastic. Let me go to the hospital room. I'd just been living a lie. I've just been trying to constantly cover up something and then find them and this is the issue at hand. So it's allowed me to challenge myself in different ways, from being on meds to not being on meds to continuing to get better to being who I am. Because I don't think if I wouldn't be able to empower the people that I would like to empower if I was never challenged and faced with things that I needed to overcome personally myself.
Good stuff.
Because, without challenges, your challenges make you who you are. But last and final question, because we only had 5. Do you let having mental illness define you?
I would say yes and no. I own it. Do I let it define me? Do I enter a conversation and say, hi, I'm Davlin Edge, I have anxiety? No. It's not my definition, but it's definitely a piece of who I am. And I own that, and I'm proud of that. And like I said, if my anxiety randomly disappeared, you are not going to hear no complaints from me. Let's live our best lives. But again, I'm thankful for the challenge. And, I think that if me having anxiety is helpful to one other person, then it was worth it. And you don't get to choose by any means. We all know that I'm a faithful religious person. He did what he did for a reason. I may not know what that reason is, but his reason is much bigger than anything that I could ever imagine. And so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, like I said, I think, even having this conversation with you, like, I know this is a big conversation for you. I know it's something that you've wanted to do for a while. And, you may have a little bit of anxiety in the time that I'm putting this together. And then when I'm like, all right, Ray, I'm going to go live with it, because there are going to be people who are like, hello, new Rem, who this? But, I think that what's important is you open yourself up. I open myself up. If we can save one person's life, put a smile on one person's face, make somebody's life a little easier because they know they're not alone, it's worth it.
It's worth it. And I like, as you say, it's worth it. Like I can say it's dark. And the times where the times are dark, like I can't knock you. You can't knock the darkness. But the light is worth it. Because I think about, okay, I was ready as I was ever gonna be, whether it was gonna be in a swimming pool, which is now my safe place, or if it was in the other way. But if I wouldn't have came out that darkness, I wouldn't have came. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be it.
Yeah, I think the reminder that there is, in fact, always light at the end of the tunnel. It may be a long ass tunnel.
It may be a long tunnel, but boy, it's
keep walking. Keep walking.
Keep going.
All right. Thanks, sis.
I appreciate you. I'm going to go tend to that cute kid that we keep talking about.
All right. I love you.
I love you as well.